When I say boat, you say club. Boat. You know, a man can but dream. I've always wanted to say that line. Anyway, in this programme, we're going to be meeting the people who could be saying a line just like that. This is, of course, Draper's Secondary. It's the home of Hail Mary. But is that, and should that be, the only thing that's synonymous with a VPSA candidate? In this programme, we're going to be looking at that and actually asking questions about society regulations. We're going to be asking questions about student finance, higher education, and what the position of a prospective VPSA is going to be on that, and one of the most important issues currently on the student political agenda. And of course, we'll look at inclusion in a diverse institution as this, and what a VPSA can do, and if a VPSA who wins this contest can do more. Here we are, it's straight, it's survive or die, only one of them can win. We're asking them all the same questions, but are they going to give the same answers? Let's meet the candidate. Welcome to the programme. How are you feeling at this early stage in the game?
Yeah, it's very exciting and it's overwhelming to see, all getting in contact with all the societies, getting your friends along and, just joining forces together.
Okay, now tell me, what are the key features of your manifesto?
My first pledge is to, campaign against the rise in tuition fees more strategically. I believe that, previously, if we are a student population of 16,000 and we've managed 200 students to take to a protest, I don't think so that is a very huge number, because there are 6,000 international students out of a population of 15,000, so that is a big pie of the student population. So I want to campaign more strategically. If we can get along with the international students, we can tell them to share our pain, because this will come to them eventually as well, and it is coming in, because the government is also cutting on the immigration laws and also, granting PSW visas to the students. So that is my strategy, to get them along and join forces and then go along.
Now, what do you think makes you a unique and distinct candidate?
Well, I've been the International Students Officer running for 2 years, and I've been on the Pakistani Society committee for 2 years. I've managed to organize very successful events in the past. For example, Prestige show, which was a fashion show and a dinner, and a trip for the international students to Amsterdam. So I believe I have the necessary experience, and I've really enjoyed my time, coming from an another country to a different culture. I've got along, and I know, these are the best years of your life, and I want to make sure that everyone has.
Okay, now, do you feel you understand the needs of clubs and societies, what they care about, but also what they require of you as a VPSA?
Well, I do understand, as I've been through the process myself, because there were numerous times when I was running backwards and forwards between the international office and the student council to get an international week done, last year, but I was unable to. So I can really feel the pain and how it feels. So I'll be always there, dedicating my time fully and all my efforts to see that everyone's satisfied, every society gets what they deserve.
Okay, now if you could pick maybe a couple, what are your highlights of your time as being in clubs or societies? I mean, you've touched on a few already, but if you could just name maybe two.
So you want
personal highlights of being in clubs or societies that you've been in?
I mean, I've really enjoyed my time. I've directed a play and acted in a comedy play with the Pakistani Society. We've arranged some very good social events. Again, with the Pakistani Society, with the Business Society, and also with the International Society, we've arranged boat bowls in the start of the year. And yeah, I mean, the trip to Amsterdam was a very memorable one.
Okay, great. Now, it's maybe a redundant question, but do you have the official support of any clubs or societies?
Well, up until now, I am having words with different societies and clubs.
Okay.
And they have planned to back me up, and we'll see once the election starts.
Okay, but no official support at this stage?
Well, I do. I have the support of Pakistani Society.
Okay.
I have the support of Business Society. I have the support of the Sikh Society. And we're having words with the Tamil, Bengali, the international students are all with me, and the Islamic Society, we're having words with them.
Sure. Okay, now turning to society regulations. What is your view on them? And secondly, do you think they're fair or maybe not tough enough?
I like to make, I think so they're fair enough, the society regulations we have, but I guess there's a lot of bureaucracy to go through, if you want funds and stuff. So I like to ease that process, but I believe in the future, our SU will not have enough funds because of the cuts that have been placed. So I want to come up with innovative ways, to increase the membership, to increase the number of students to form a society, because then you increase the student participation if you raise the minimum bar to create a society. So there are more students into a society, and then you get more funds of the membership as well.
Sure, okay. Now I'm asking this question to all candidates running this year because it affects the landscape of student politics this year. What is your stance on the changing financial situation of higher education, and are your views in line with the current SU free education policy?
Yes, I do support that free education policy, and as I told you earlier, that my first pledge would be to fight against these cuts in higher education, because we already in a recession, and then saddling the students more into debt. I don't think so, because students are an asset to the economy, and I'll fight against this.
Okay. Now, does drinking form a part of this role?
Drinking?
Perhaps going into Drapers, it's been synonymous with VPSAs in the past. Would you say, what's your view on drinking?
I mean, I personally don't drink, so, and I have no issues with it, but I like to mention that I like to create more social events, because the only thing we have outstanding that one event is Drapers. I like to put funding into different social events that will cater to people's need who do not drink, like like having an International Students Week or a RAG week with association with bars. So I wouldn't just narrowly channelize all my efforts into one event, that is Draper. I would want to come up with innovative new events.
Okay, now final question. One of your roles is to run the sports night here at Queen Mary, Hail Mary as it's called, and some students have referred to that in the past as being perhaps an in-club, or a bit cliquey. How real do you acknowledge this assertion, and what do you intend to do for inclusion, in particular related to Hail Mary?
Well, I like to hear the issues of the students that are having, I like to bring them on board and, ask them, I like to ask them for assistance that, what do you advise, how should we have it then? If you're not happy with the current pattern of how we're having it, come up with ideas, and I'll always, bring them on board, and don't mind, changing it and, making it more exciting than ever.
Okay, VPS, thank you for joining us.
So,
you're welcome.
Thank you.
How are you feeling at this very early stage in the campaign?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling quietly confident at the moment. Yeah.
Okay, now talk me through the key points of your manifesto.
The key points of my manifesto are to make the finance fairer and easier. At the moment, clubs and societies have great difficulty seeing exactly what goes in and out of their bank account. So my main aim is to make that easier for treasurers, so they've got more freedom to use the money that the student union give them. I'd also like to make the money divided fairly. At the moment, it's kind of something that Don started, but I'd like to build on more, as I know that a lot of clubs and societies feel that the money that the student union have at their disposal is not distributed fairly. So I think we'll have a budget request, so each club and society will have to submit a form and submit exactly what every penny is spent on, and then we divvy up the budget according to that.
Okay, now, do you feel you understand the needs of clubs and societies and what they care about, and what they require of you as a VPSA?
I feel like I do, because I've had 3 years of experience in various clubs. I mean, my experience as secretary and then president of the theatre company is great experience of running a busy society. I mean, we won the Society of the Year, we put on numerous shows. And then my experience, I played football in my first year, and I played rugby in my second and third year. So I've got experience of the sports side as well. So I think I've got a good balance of kind of knowing what societies and what sports both want from their VPSA.
Which kind of answers what my next question is going to be really, and that is what makes you feel you're qualified to be able to represent those clubs and societies. Now, You mentioned that also you've been a member of numerous clubs. What have been your highlights, if you could pick any?
Winning Society of the Year, Colours and Honours, was a fantastic night, fantastic achievement.
For what society?
For the theatre company. The theatre company was a joke society. I think we had 6 members in my first year, of which I was kind of one. I didn't pay myself as an official member.
Okay.
And then,
this is in the days when finance
the
wasn't.
days of finance
Yeah,
wasn't
okay.
such an issue. And then me and 3 friends of mine took it over and took the membership past 100 and took the shows from, I think they did 3 shows in my first year, to doing, I think we had about 40 odd performances, not 20 odd shows. So that's a highlight. And I scored a really good try against LSE, which I think counts as my rugby highlight.
So we've talked about societal regulations from a financial point of view, but obviously there are other elements to societal regulations. So are they fair, would you say, or not tough enough?
I'd say they're pretty fair. I mean, I think you're referring to the 20 members by, I think it was the 26th of November this year.
Yeah, as one of many regulations.
Yeah, I think that was necessary, as there were a lot of dormant societies within the student union, and as a way of making them active, to put pressure on. I think it was a necessary thing last year. At the same time, I think that with the support and with a quicker admin system and with more guidance from the student union, there's no reason why we can't grow as many societies. If the support's there from the student body, then the student union should provide for that society.
Okay, now one of the questions I'm asking all the candidates in all categories is something which has dominated the political landscape this year and will do no doubt next, and that is student finance, changing the face of higher education. Now, what is your stance on the changing financial situation? And can I ask, are your views in line with the current SU free education policy discussion?
I can tell you my views. I'm not sure if mine are in line with the student union or not. I'm not overly familiar with them to read up. I'm very worried about the state of student finance. I'm very worried in general with the way that this government in the past kind of 5 or 10 years have been changing paradigms of education as a whole. I think that they're devaluing humanities. I think that they're making education about into more of a manufacturing plant. You're constantly defined by what you do, and knowledge is seen as a luxury. There's a brilliant YouTube video with comedian Stuart Lee, and he tells an anecdote of when Mrs. Thatcher visited Oxford, and she approaches a student, and she says, "Oh, what are you studying?" And she says, "Ancient Norse literature." And Mrs. Thatcher surprised, "Oh, what a luxury." I fear that knowledge is becoming viewed as something that will get you a job and will make you money, whereas I very much on the stance that knowledge should be for knowledge's sake, should be for learning, for studying.
Okay.
So, and these fees and the current government attitude towards that, I think, are deteriorating.
So that's the stance that you would take. The current position is free education. Would you therefore still believe in that? Okay, 2 final quick questions. Is your role about drinking?
Is my role about drinking? No.
Okay, easy answer. And finally, there are some students that say that Hail Mary, a job very synonymous with the role, is a bit of an in club. How real do you acknowledge this assertion? And what would you intend to do for the issue of inclusion within the union?
Hail Mary is an in club, yes, for sports. I think that it's can build as a sports and societies night, but it isn't really. But I don't think taking that away, I don't think it'd be wise to come in and say, "Oh right, let's make Hail Mary a sports and societies night and have the societies there." I think the things that make Hail Mary memorable and great are the main clubs, the big sports clubs that run it, and it should be a sports night. I think to deal with the issue of inclusion, I think there should be more societies-based nights I have to look into maybe even not so often as Hail Mary, because with sports you're meeting every week, sometimes societies like snow sports just do one big trip and they meet up and do socials. So I think more societies, nice.
Okay, brilliant. We're out of time. Henry Bishop, thank you very much indeed.
Great, thank you.
Welcome, Ross.
Hi.
How are you feeling at this early stage in the campaign?
Nervous but excited. There's a lot of good candidates running. It should be a very exciting couple of weeks.
Okay, talk me through the key features of your manifesto.
Well, I'm running as part of a group called Viva Queen Mary, and we've got a set of policies ourselves, mostly revolving around sort of fighting the cuts and fees, fighting against job losses and the loss of educational resources. We felt was a very, very important issue that was relevant to every single position in the student union, all of which are responsible for campaigning. And these are student union policies, and we felt we need to drive the union into gear. But more specifically to my position, I want to foster a culture of sports and societies here on campus. I think they're integral to the community of Queen Mary. I think we can increase participation, and we can do that through improved communication with members. A vote for me means a vote for a radical overhaul in the way that student events are communicated to students.
Just to clarify, you said you're a member of a group called it. Do you mean a slate or a group?
It's officially a slate in the electoral terms.
Good, that's good to clarify. Now, what do you think makes you a unique and distinct candidate?
Well, I think partly running as part of that slate, a vote for me and a vote for my friends within that slate means that you're going to get a coherent set of policies across the union. But more specific to myself, no one else is really dealing with this issue of cuts, and they're going to harm sports and societies. They can't run without financial resources. If the student union budget gets cut by Queen Mary as a result of national cuts, sports and societies on this campus are going to be completely reshaped from what we have now. And no one else is really talking about these issues of communication that I'm aware of. Students have come to me and they've said that their posters are getting taken down. There's not enough notice boards. They're not being able to send out emails with events. I think I can deal with that.
Okay, well, that kind of answers my question, which was really going to be on what you feel you understand to be the needs of clubs and societies, which are really to deal with that. But following on from that, what do you think they require of a VPSA specifically?
I think they require a VPSA that is going to be sensitive to their needs. Different clubs, different societies, they have different requirements. And as a VPSA, I'd meet with these clubs and societies on an individual level, find out what they need from me. There's been various mishaps this year with sports clubs, and I mentioned the issues of communications, smaller societies. The minimum price right now for smaller societies can charge is £5. And for low resource intensive societies, such as the one I'm a member of, social students, £5 is too much to charge, and it doesn't help us with participation. So by meeting with club societies on an individual level, I can find out their individual needs, and I will work very hard to find what they need and put it into action for them.
Okay, now, what have, for you, been the highlights of participating in clubs and societies at QM? What are your highlight moments?
Well, campaigning for me is a big thing, and that's something club societies know what to do. It's made me able to meet like-minded individuals and actually bring issues that I care about to student attention. And for me, those may be more political issues, but I think what I'm saying here applies across sports and societies. You meet people that have the same interests, and you get to do things you're passionate about. Okay,
now do you have the official support of any clubs and societies?
No, not yet.
What is your view on the regulations of clubs and societies? Are they fair or actually not tough enough?
I actually think in some aspects they're too tough. We've had an overhaul this year of them through Don Bell, and as part of the student council I had the opportunity to look at them and vote on them. And there are some very good changes made. But one thing I would like to change is the requirement for 20 members by the first reading week. Now, in theory, a club need be nothing more than 2 students that want to come together. And they want to attract other members. If we don't allow them to register as a club and society or start disaffiliating them simply they haven't got an arbitrary amount of members by a certain time, it's not helpful to building a community, a club and society. So, I will scrap that limit of 20 members by the first reading week and deal with society's needs on a much more individual basis without these blanket rules that just can't apply to the wide variety of club and societies here at Queen Mary.
So you look at it on a case-by-case basis, not have any caps or numbers that would dictate student participation?
Yes, exactly. I mean, there still does need to be rules here. We can't have hundreds of inactive societies that do nothing. It'd be an administration nightmare. But yeah, it needs to be done on a case-by-case basis rather than rules that pretend to apply to everybody but just can't.
Okay, now, I'm asking every single candidate in every single category this question. It's an issue which has dominated the political landscape for students this year and will do next if you were to win. What is your stance on the changing financial situation for higher education, and are your views in line with the current SU free education policy?
Yeah, they are in line with the current SU free education policy. I actually worked very hard to keep that policy on the council, and it was my motion that I proposed that was passed that gave the SU an anti-cut stance. So yes, I am in line with these policies. However, I do feel there's been failings to carry them out properly at QMSU. The build-up to the first demonstration was very, very good, but after that we've sort of fallen behind, and as part of Be With Me Mary, one of our big issues is bringing this back to the forefront of QMSU. It is integral to the continuation of our education at this university, it is integral to the continuation of QMSU, and we need to start taking these issues seriously. We're all experienced at Be With Me Mary in the education movement. You know, we've been on these demonstrations, we've spoken to the people that matter, we've engaged with the issues, and we know what is happening, and we need to take this seriously. So a vote for us is one where QMSU will put this really as a priority.
Okay, now, is this role about drinking?
No, absolutely not. I mean, being a sabbatical officer, if you're elected, it's a responsibility, you know, to do work, a lot of work. It's a very difficult role, not to go out and get drunk with your mates every night.
Okay, now finally, there are some students who say that Hail Mary, a much synonymous feature of the role, is a bit of an in club. How real do you acknowledge the assertion that that this is true, and what do you intend to do for inclusion in this very diverse institution?
Yeah, I mean, I think I can vouch for the fact it's an in-club, one that very much I don't feel part of, and you know, I think it's that in-club that is going to try and wrap up the VPSA road, which is unfortunate. You know, I'm trying to break away from this cliquey idea that, you know, only certain people go to certain things, and yeah, we do need to get away from Hail Mary being an in-club, and we can do that by broadening the way it's done. You know, we can engage with other clubs and societies beyond the ones just involved right now, and you know, get them to build for Hail Mary, get them to run Hail Marys, and you know, move it beyond just a few sports clubs. You know, move it into the big societies, and by doing that, we can involve a lot more students in it. We can break the idea it's an in-club without losing the people that already feel in that in-club.
Okay, Ross Spear, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Alex, welcome, good morning.
Likewise.
How are you feeling at this early stage in the campaign?
Well, tired, hungover, all the good feelings in life.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm feeling not too bad. I mean, it was a shaky start there, but I think I've kind of pulled through a bit, you know.
Sure.
There was a hustings last night, which I think went fairly well, you know. You know, I'm somewhat nervous about public speaking, but I think I managed to pull it off in the end, so that was pretty good.
Now, talk me through the key points of your manifesto.
Well, the key points of my manifesto are basically, I want to provide a much more diverse and kind of all-encompassing campus society experience. I feel at the moment events on campus and societies and clubs are all kind of generalising. They try to appeal to like mass audiences, to the mainstream, and to just kind of cover all bases, and it doesn't work. You know, we have to have. I want to let up, you know, individuals set up obscure left field kind of societies which they can, you know, espouse their own interests. So it's the sort of thing that people just most people aren't interested in, but like small pockets of people are interested in. And therefore, you have more of those. It encompasses all the various tastes in society, in the university.
Sure. Okay. Do you feel you understand the needs of clubs and societies and what they care about and what they would require of you as a VPSA?
Well, yeah. I mean, I've spoken to quite a few people from various clubs and societies, you know, and they've really expressed all kinds of concerns. I mean, obviously the big one is funding. You know, there's all kinds of complaints about funding. I mean, last night I was talking to members of the netball team saying they've said that they have to pay for their own coach at the moment and not get any funding for it from the union. You know, so that kind of thing, like all these kind of concerns. And also, I think another one is exposure. You know, a lot of these kind of smaller societies just don't have any real exposure. There's no, certainly for societies, there's no real kind of big events to kind of present them. Like Hail Mary, for example, is mostly focused on clubs. And even then, it's only like a small selection of clubs that really kind of attend it. So I think there needs to be greater kind of more events like Hail Mary to expose for societies generally, but also just for, even for the more less popular clubs, which really need to get grouped together and make themselves known, And yeah, and I've also had a lot of complaints just generally about, the ability to actually set up all these societies. One of my friends is the founder of the Metal Society, which he recently set up, and he's just talking about how difficult it is to, getting, how, in the union at the moment you need 20 members to get full affiliation, like funding and everything. So he's saying how difficult it is for these kind of, to get to this kind of official number, at least initially, for the society to get them off the ground.
Okay.
Personally, I would advocate lowering the number of people required to start a society to 10 in order to make these kind of societies easier to just set up and get off the ground.
Why are you qualified to understand these concerns?
Well, as Secretary and President of the Film Society for the last 2 years, as well as being involved in many societies over my entire time at Queen Mary, I can relate to it. I myself, I'm not a person of kind of, of mass appeal. I like, I have personal interests. I think that just don't appeal to most people, and I just felt on my time at university, they weren't being catered for. In my first year, I hardly got that involved in union life at all, simply because there was just nothing that actually appealed to me. Since then I've tried to express my discontent over this, but I feel the best way to actually get into the game and actually sort it out is to actually just do it myself.
Sure. Now, clubs and societies can actually declare their support publicly for candidates and endorse candidates. Do you have the official support of any clubs and societies?
Well, obviously I have the support of the Film Society.
Sure.
As the president. Yeah, like I said, I know one of my friends is the head of the Metal Society, so I'm sure I've got the long hair for
Nice.
And I'm still kind of canvassing people. I'm talking around. I'll have to see. Other than that, no official support from the other ones yet. But I've heard, talking to various people from various societies.
You can confirm you have the official support of the Film Society.
Oh, absolutely. Well, obviously, I'll be the president after all.
Okay. What you talked about society regulations. You mentioned, for example, the 20-person rule. Let's talk specifically about society regulations. Do you think that they are too tough, or are they fair?
Well, like I said, obviously I was saying, I think that the 20-person rule is too tough. I think the problem is, like I was saying, the way the rules are set at the moment is entirely based. It really calls for such incredible mass appeal. It has to require, you need to get so many people involved in these things now. Don't get me wrong. I don't believe, you could let individual, nutcases could start up, any random crazy society like that, But at the same time, I just think that at the moment it's a bit too harsh,
This is a case-by-case basis. Although the 20-person rule, there is flexibility within that, but you would feel that perhaps that's still too tough.
We'll say the question again.
I'm saying that there's a case-by-case basis that they are reviewed upon. So although the 20-person rule it stands, they're still judged on a case-by-case basis, as I use societies that didn't have 20, but they may still go ahead.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, it's also about proper affiliation as well, and getting the same kind of funding is harder if you've not got 20 people as well. And I think even if it's kind of just as a promotional thing. If you say you need 20 members, that's what people will think. It's people who think, well, shit, I don't even know 20 people are interested in whatever. I need to bother trying.
All right, now one question I'm asking all candidates is about higher education funding. It's dominating the political landscape for student politics. Are your views in line with the current SU's free education policy?
Well, I am, of course, in favour of free education, but at the same time, I'm a pragmatist as well. So, at the moment, under what is essentially a Tory-led government, we're not going to have free education in the next couple of years. So, I think at the moment, what you need to push for, and certainly, I think this union should help push for, is a compromise. Actually try and bring in, lower tuition fees. Maybe bring in a graduate tax, income-assessed graduate tax rather than tuition fees. I think it would be a much more effective means. But I just think you have to be realistic about these things. Most of the country has voted Tory. Most of the country does not believe in free education, almost by that definition. So it's going to be impossible to try and motivate a small minority to try and force it. But I obviously agree with it, absolutely, ideologically.
Okay, is this role about drinking? Is this role about drinking?
Well, don't get me wrong, I have more drinking power than any other human being on the planet. But at the same time, you've got to appeal to the non-drinkers as well, which I can do, because I can go for large periods of time without drinking as well.
Now, finally, final question. There are some students who say that Hail Mary is an in-club. How real do you acknowledge this assertion, and what do you intend to do for the inclusion of people in this diverse institution?
We'll define in-club then.
People feel it's cliquey.
Oh yeah, well it is really. Like I was saying, there are a lot of clubs which make up Hail Mary more than any other clubs. After all, I don't think there's anything wrong with cliques to some extent. You need to, because that means people are connecting and getting together. But at the same time, Hail Mary should be a much more diverse group. It should be appeal to like all societies and clubs rather than simply to the kind of people just going the regulars, if you know what I mean. So yeah, it is mainly a small group of clubs that go to Hail Mary, and a lot of the other clubs I think feel intimidated by this kind of the cliquiness of it. So I would concur with that. But then again, I don't think it's inherently a bad thing either. I mean, it can work, that kind of thing. So.
Alex MacDonald, thank you very much indeed.
No problem.
Now, morning Don.
Morning.
How are you feeling at this early stage in the campaign?
Good, excited, a bit hyperactive, very confident, I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, now talk me through the key features of your manifesto.
Key features of the manifesto, okay, well it's split into 5 sections, so there's sort of 5 different groups of the student activities sector, if you like. Societies, sports, charity fundraising, campaigns, and flagship events, major events. And I've addressed each one of those different issues, and there are sort of main points and then breakdowns of all those points as well. So, I mean, shall I go into the points as well?
You can very briefly, USPs, if you like.
So societies, for too long, they've been under the sports shadow. So I want to just give them a whole new initiative, their own budgets, their own strategy, their own priorities. Sports, it's a bit limited. You can only join a sports club at the moment. I want to break that completely free. I want recreational sport to be the real driving factor. So you can just turn up and join 2 sessions. So that you can do a semester course in taekwondo or anything, badminton, something like that. Or you could get involved in competitions, netball, basketball, that sort of thing. Charities, I think like there's too few people. It's really great, but it's limited to a few people. It needs to be kind of centralised in the union. Okay. People need to get involved in that, so it raises its profile. Finally, the campaigns. Every officer has it at the bottom of the list because everyone's expected to do it. So everyone kind of waits for everyone else to get on with it. Now, I think it's the wrong kind of policy. I think someone needs to step up and take charge, take control, lead it and manage it. So that's what policies do.
Okay, now, do you feel you understand the needs of clubs and societies and what they care about, what they require of you as a VPSA?
Yeah, well, I've learned a lot this year. And
why is that?
7 months into the role as Vice President of Student Activities, I've kind of grown to know a lot of students, grown to know a lot of very diverse societies. Some of them don't have adequate need and necessity on this campus at the moment. Performance areas for societies is one big one. No rehearsal space, no performance space. We've got these great facilities here in this gym where people can play sport, where people can join classes, but not really anything for music, not really anything for arts and drama, only for entertainment.
In terms of your credentials, why are you qualified to understand those concerns as opposed to anybody else?
Well, because I've been doing it for a year now, and it would be a shame for me to stop now that I've got a real driving manifesto this year. I think it would be a shame if I didn't do that. I mean, I've been in the sports section, that's where I kind of grew up, so I understand that kind of sector very well. Know the difficulties that lay in that. Societies, in a way, are similar, and that's why they've been clubbed together with sports in the past, but I really think they need to break free.
What are your highlights in terms of participating in clubs and societies at QM?
Highlights? I think the New Turn Society has been a great one. I think they've come up from a completely new society to 70 plus members.
Sorry, just to clarify my question, I'm more meant in terms of you participating in them as being a member of a club or society in your time here?
In my time here, well, it would be as being president of the boat club. I mean, I took on a pretty hard task. We had 6 grand debt and cleared that in 1 year, and we got to Henley, which is really quite a prestigious event, and it was great. Just to go from a beer drinking, guzzling kind of society to a real competitive, spirited club was an amazing achievement. And just the fact that we managed to pick up so many people along the way, and everyone got really enthused about it along the way.
that's going to be the highlight.
Okay. Following on from that, really, I guess, official support, do you have any from clubs and societies?
Official support? No, not necessarily. I think probably the boat club will.
Okay.
I've not approached
But
anyone
no actual
specifically.
official at this stage?
No.
Okay, that's fine. Now, in terms of your view on society regulations, this is a big area, you know, many of you will be concerned about. Are they fair or are they not tough enough?
Well, I've actually had a change of opinion this year. I started off unrelaxed about it. I was driving participation. I was saying, let's get every club, every society with 20 members minimum. So it was a real driving factor, and that's worked. You know, we've got more members in societies and clubs this year than any other. Not necessarily driving participation, perhaps though. There's some hidden people there that might have been active but just didn't pay up. So I've had a switch around. I think 20-member rule can go. I think that's old hat. And I think the way to do it is to be completely honest about it and to actually go, you know, from the top down. Let's drive this thing forward by actually doing a proper service for societies and giving them what they want.
Okay, now I'm going to have to answer this to every single candidate in every single
This is a
category
difficult question.
because this is just unavoidable in terms of the political landscape
Right.
of this year academically, but also next. You know what it's going to be. It's higher education, finances. Now, what is your stance on the changing financial situation? And it's in some respects a redundant question, but are your views in line with the SU's?
Well, what I would say is that as a student activities officer, I think it can be overblown. I think if you're going to be a student activities officer, you need to stay local. You need to be attentive to the issues that surround this environment. And I think if we go national with the campaign, I think that will detract from what people are doing here. And yes, I can't agree with any kind of policy that stops young people from choosing university. I can't agree with any policy that says, you know, widening participation is wrong, which penalises a college for widening participation. But I think what my job is next year is to get people here involved and make this place a really good place, and that's what I'm focused on doing.
Okay. Is your role about drinking?
About drinking, is that traditional view, perhaps,
Okay.
but not
How much?
really. How much?
Yeah.
I've drunk hardly anything this year. I find myself not having the time to do it. There's too much going on, too much work, too much stuff. I can't fit it in.
Okay. That's your easy question.
That's an easy question.
One last question to go, a bit harder. Some students might say that Hail Mary is an in-club. How real do you acknowledge this assertion, and what do you intend to do about the inclusion in this very diverse institution?
Yes, Hail Mary is. It is a bit cliquey. It's still sporty, probably because in the past that's what's sold, that's where it grew up, that's how it came. Like I've introduced more and more sports this year. More and more people are getting involved in it. I would say, you know, next year there's a real opportunity, to kind of break the barrier, to really make it something different. It's been developing slowly. We've got these Hail Mary videos that are going on. That's becoming old now again. It needs a reinvention next year as well.
Okay, well, Don Bell, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks.